A warm welcome to Stephen classes. This is day 9 of Crash Biology, and I am back with another set of questions from breathing and exchange of gases. In this chapter, we mainly discuss the human respiratory system, its structure, its function, and when you speak about the function, you discuss about the exchange of gases, the transport of gases, and also about the disorders that are applicable for human respiratory system. So, shall we start with the first question? Here comes our first question. Regarding nasopharynx, we have a set of statements here. So, among the statements, you have to select the correct ones. You know what is nasopharynx? Nasopharynx is a region of the pharynx. There are other regions also, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. Actually, there are three parts for the pharynx. To know in detail, we have a picture. So, in this picture, the green shaded portion of the pharynx is named as nasopharynx. It is a roof of the pharynx. Nasal cavity or nasal chamber opens into nasopharynx, which is a common passage for food and air. So that is a sentence from your NCERT book. Then what about the yellow shaded portion? That is oropharynx. The region of the pharynx near the oral cavity, that is called oropharynx. And what about the floor of the pharynx? Floor of the pharynx is called hypopharynx, or you can name it as the laryngopharynx, because this region opens into the larynx or to the trachea portion. Okay, so here you can see the glottis as well as the gullet region. So the region of the pharynx which opens into the glottis and gullet, these two openings, that region is called hypopharynx or laryngopharynx. So there are three regions for the pharynx. So to answer that question, we have a set of statements now. The first statement is correct because nasal chamber opens into this part of the pharynx. That is correct regarding nasopharynx. Remember, this is the roof of the pharynx, right? It opens through glottis into the larynx region and trachea. This is a wrong statement because hypopharynx or laryngopharynx is opening through the glottis into the larynx region and trachea. So this is applicable for hypopharynx or laryngopharynx. What about the third statement? It is a common passage for food and air. That is correct statement. Nasopharynx is a common passage for food and air. So that is a sentence from your NCERT. So here first and third statements are true. Our answer will be option C. Moving on to our next question. Next question, the outer pleural membrane is in close contact with dash, whereas the inner pleural membrane is in close contact with dash. So, you know, whenever there are changes in the volume of the thoracic chamber, it will directly affect the volume of lungs. Because lungs are having two coverings, the double pleural membranes are there, and the outer pleura is called the parietal pleura and the inner pleura is called the visceral pleura. So we have a picture of these pleural membranes. We have a picture here. So here you can see these are our lungs and we have taken a sectional view. So in this sectional view, you can see very close to the lung surface, there will be visceral pleura. Visceral pleura is lining the lung surface. It is very close to the lung surface. And what about the parietal pleura? It is close to the thoracic lining. It is very close to the thoracic lining. So in between the two pleural membranes, you can see the pleural fluid also. Right. So here, any change happening to the lungs, any change happening to the thoracic cavity will be reflected in the volume of lungs because these two pleural membranes are very close with each other. So we have the question now. Outer pleural membrane is in contact with the thoracic lining. Parietal pleura is in contact with the thoracic lining, whereas the inner pleural membrane is in close contact with the lung surface. Okay, visceral pleura is in contact with the lung surface. So that is our answer. We move on to our next question. It is about the mechanism of respiration. So this diagram, it is very familiar for you. In this question, they are asking about the false statement regarding the involvement of the muscles. You know, which is our primary respiratory muscle? Which is our primary respiratory muscle? When I'm asking these questions, you can give a live chat. You can answer the which is the primary respiratory muscle in our body. It will be diaphragm. Diaphragm is the primary respiratory muscle and it undergoes contraction as well as relaxation. When it will contract and when it will relax. To know more about this, we have an explanation slide here. So in this slide, you can see here, this is for inspiration. Okay, air enters through the nostrils. And the other diagram, it is for expiration. Air comes out from our nose. So here, what happens during inspiration? During inspiration, diaphragm contracts. Not that point. During inspiration, diaphragm contracts and external intercostal muscles also contract. So diaphragm contracts and external intercostal muscles will contract during a normal inspiration. What about normal expiration? During a normal expiration, diaphragm relaxes. So when diaphragm relaxes, it will move back to its dome shape. So when it contracts, it will flatten. But when it relaxes, it will move back to the dome shape. Okay. And what about the external intercostal muscles? They will undergo relaxation. So during normal expiration, external intercostals will relax. And at the same time, you should know about the forceful respiration. During forceful breathing, what happens? The abdominal muscles are also involved. Abdominal muscles, along with these muscles, abdominal muscles are also getting engaged during a forceful breathing. During forceful breathing, abdominal muscles will contract during a forceful expiration. Remember, during a forceful expiration, abdominal muscles have to contract. Then only we can forcefully we can expire. So abdominal muscles are involved only during forceful breathing. So coming back to our question here, we have to pick the false statement. So volume of the thoracic chamber. So in relation with this, you should know about the volume of thoracic chamber and also the pressure inside the lungs. So whenever there is change in the thoracic volume, it will directly affect the volume of lungs. So when thoracic chamber volume increases, lung volume also increases. Thoracic volume decreases, lung volume also decrease. You got it? So like that, what happens to pressure? The intrapulmonary pressure, it will be causing this inspiration and expiration. The intrapulmonary pressure, you know what happens during inspiration? Intrapulmonary pressure is decreased compared to the atmospheric pressure during inspiration, whereas during expiration, intrapulmonary pressure increases that of compared to that of atmospheric pressure. Then only we can expel air. So intrapulmonary pressure decreases in inspiration and intrapulmonary pressure increases during expiration. So the volume and pressure of inside our lung is also very important when you learn this mechanism of respiration. So here, first statement is true. The volume of thorax will increase and diaphragm contracted in diagram A. What is diagram A here? That is inspiration. So during inspiration, diaphragm contracts and volume of the thoracic chamber will increase. That is a correct statement. What about the second one? The intrapulmonary pressure is decreased and volume of thorax will increase in diagram A. In diagram A, it is very clear, diaphragm will contract. During inspiration, diaphragm will contract. Then option C is wrong. I will explain it later. Then what about option D? Intrapulmonary pressure will increase, right? And here, the volume of thorax will decrease and that is applicable for diagram B. So that is also correctly matched here. Okay. So D is also correct. What is the problem with C option? External intercostals are contracted in diagram A. So in diagram A, external intercostals are contracted and diaphragm is contracted. But it is written as in diagram B. So there is wrong statement. Okay, the wrong part of the statement is here. So if suppose it was diagram A, this statement will be correct. So diaphragm contraction you can see in diagram A only. You got it? So our answer is option C. Shall we move to our next question? It is about the pulmonary volumes and pulmonary capacities. We have the respiratory volumes and the respiratory capacities. To know in detail these pulmonary volumes and their definition, and also the pulmonary capacities and their definition, we have a diagram for you. So here in this graphical representation of the pulmonary volumes and pulmonary capacities, you can identify three lines here. Suppose you are marking here A line, this is B, this line, this horizontal line as C, this as D and E. Between B and C, these two lines, you can identify the normal breathing process. So during normal breathing, we inspire normally and we expire normally. So this is considered here, and we can take it as the tidal volume. So what is tidal volume? The normal volume of air, the amount of air that is inspired or expired during an effortless respiration, during a normal respiration, that is tidal volume. Okay, and what about IRV here? IRV, after normal inspiration, when you are taking an additional amount of air, the additional amount of air inspired. Okay, this line is going up. So the additional amount of air inspired by forceful inspiration, that is called inspiratory reserve volume. And like that, what is ERV? The additional amount of air expired. The additional amount of air expired by forceful expiration after normal expiration, that is called ERV or expiratory reserve volume. And like that, you can mark here the vital capacity. What is vital capacity? The maximum amount of air that can be expired after a forceful inspiration. Or you can also say that after a forceful expiration, the maximum amount of air you can inspire. That is also called vital capacity. So these definitions you can by heart from this particular graph itself. Very easy. Okay. And what is functional residual capacity? Functional residual capacity is the volume of air that remain in our lungs after normal expiration. So this point, this line C, it will be giving you an idea about normal expiration. So this line denotes the normal expiration. So this point, from this point, okay, the region here, that is FRC. So the amount of air that remain in our lungs after normal expiration, that is functional residual capacity. Okay, then what is RV? Even after forceful expiration, some amount of air will remain in our lungs. That is called residual volume or RV. So the amount of air that remain in lungs even after forceful expiration. Then what is TLV? Sorry, TLC. What is TLC? TLC is the total lung capacity. The maximum amount of air that can be accommodated in our lungs. That is what is called total lung capacity. You got it? So we have the question for you. So here in this question, you can see among options 1, 2, 3 and 5, they are correctly matched because the relations are correct. VZ is equal to IRV plus ERV plus TV, and like that IC is equal to IRV plus TV, then EZ is equal to ERV plus TV, and also IRV is equal to VC minus EC. All these relations you can learn very well from the graph that I have shown in the previous slide. So the correct answer will be all except 4. Only the fourth one, only the fourth relation is wrong here because FRC is equal to RV plus ERV. So here it is incorrectly given. So the correct answer is option A. It is about the partial pressure of respiratory gases. The exchange of gases as well as the transport of gases will happen by partial pressure according to the concentration gradient of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So regarding partial pressure of gases, you should know about the difference in PO2 as well as PCO2 at different regions, not only in the tissues, oxygenated blood, etc., but also even in the atmospheric air and also in the alveolar air. So the values you have to by heart. For that you have a table in your NCRT. So in this table given in your NCRT book, it is very clear that what is the PO2, PCO2 in different regions. First of all, in the atmospheric air, what is the PO2 in atmospheric air? It will be 159 and zero point 0.3. In alveolar air, the oxygen partial pressure will be 104 millimeters of mercury and 40 millimeters of mercury of PCO2. So in deoxygenated blood, it will be 40-45. In oxygenated blood, it will be 95-40. And in tissues, it will be 40-45. So these values you should have by heart. Now we have the question for you. So in this question, the correct answer will be option C. So PO2, PCO2, the correct option will be C only. We move to our next question. Respiratory membrane is represented and you have to find out the sequence in which oxygen and carbon dioxide will pass through the different layers. You know, the respiratory membrane is having three layers. What are the three layers for the respiratory membrane? We have the diagram of respiratory membrane. The three layers are, you can see a single layer, thick alveolar wall. Alveolar wall is made up of a single layer of cells composed of squamous epithelium here. Okay, so this is composed of squamous epithelium. Then this yellow portion, that is basement membrane. Then another region will be the layer of capillary. A single layer thick blood capillary is also present there. Okay, the wall of the capillary will have only one layer of cells that is also made up of squamous cells. So these are the three layers. Okay, a layer of squamous epithelium of the alveolus, a basement membrane, and endothelium of the blood capillary. These are the three layers for the respiratory membrane. So we have the question for you. So in this question, the correct sequence in which oxygen and carbon dioxide will move. So the answer will be oxygen is moving from which portion? From the capillary to the alveolar cavity. So oxygen will move in the direction of C, then it will move from C, B, A. And what about carbon dioxide? It will be from A, B, C. So the correct answer will be option B. Okay, correct answer will be option B. Now we move on to our next question. Select the correct statement about this question is about transport of gases. So here they have mentioned about the transport of oxygen as well as transport of carbon dioxide. You know, oxygen will be transported from alveolar region to tissues, whereas the carbon dioxide will be transported from tissue to alveolar region. So this transport of gases, how much percentage of these gases will be transported and in which way they are getting transported? For that we have the slide. So after the slide we will go to the question. First of all, oxygen transport 97% will be in the form of oxyhemoglobin. The 97% of oxygen traveling from alveolar region to tissues will combine with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. And like that, the remaining 3% of oxygen will be transported as dissolved in plasma. So from alveolar region to tissues, oxygen will move in two ways. What about carbon dioxide movement from tissue to alveoli? In three ways they are moving. 70% of carbon dioxide will move as bicarbonates. So the majority of carbon dioxide is moving in the form of bicarbonates and 20 to 25% as carbaminohemoglobin or in combination with amino group of hemoglobin, and the remaining 7% will be transported as dissolved in plasma. So carbon dioxide can also be dissolved in plasma and in the form of dissolved condition it can be transported. So these are the ways in which these respiratory gases are getting transported. So we have the question now. So when you answer this question, statements 1, 2 and 5 are correct. 97% of oxygen is transported by RBCs in the blood. That is the correct statement. 3% of oxygen is carried in the dissolved state through the plasma. That is also correct. Then what about the third statement? 70% of carbon dioxide transported by RBC only. That is wrong. Why it is wrong? Because for transport of carbon dioxide in 70% or in the form of bicarbonate, we require not only RBCs but also plasma. So both are required, not only plasma but also RBCs. Both are required. So the third statement is wrong here. What about the fourth one? 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide is carried as bicarbonate. Is it true? 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide, it will be transported as carbaminohemoglobin. Okay, even though in the statement carbon dioxide is not given, but you should take it as carbon dioxide. This statement is for carbon dioxide, so this statement is wrong. So our answer will be option A here. We move on to our next question. Find the missing words. You have to find out the missing words here. So this question is about the respiratory centers. You know, our respiratory centers which help in mechanism of respiration, they are located in our brain, and also some of the respiratory centers are associated with the blood vessels in the aorta and also in the carotid artery. So what are the respiratory centers located in our brain? To know more about respiratory centers, for explanation we have the diagram. So here respiratory centers are shown here. We have the respiratory rhythm center located in the medulla region. This will control the normal breathing. Normal respiratory activity will be controlled by the respiratory rhythm center located in the medulla region. And it is having the ventral group as well as the dorsal group. Okay. So, two portions are there for the respiratory rhythm center, even though they are located in the medulla region. What about in the pons region? In pons region, you can see the pneumotaxic center. The pneumotaxic center, it is concerned with rate of respiration. So normal breathing will be controlled by the rhythm center. So, but when we have to increase the rate of respiration, then comes the role of pneumotaxic center. So pneumotaxic center, it will control the rhythm center. Okay, thereby it can manage or it can increase the rate of respiration. Rate of respiration will be increased by decreasing the duration of inspiration. We have the question slide for you. Two statements are given. Specialized center present in the medulla region of the brain, which is primarily responsible for regulation of respiration. For that, our answer will be respiratory rhythm center. What about the second statement? Near the respiratory center, there is a chemosensitive area which is helping for sensing the carbon dioxide concentration as well as hydrogen ion concentration. So here our answer will be option A only. Okay. Like this, another chemoreceptors are the chemoreceptors. They are located not in the brain, but they are located in the carotid artery and aortic arch. So they are different. So here our answer is option A here. Shall we move to our next question? Yes. This is a question about the partial pressure at different regions. So sometimes they will give a graphical representation like this, and you should know about the blood vessels, type of blood present in different blood vessels. You have to keep in your mind. For that we have a diagram. So this diagram given in your NCERT is very important. So here on the right side of this diagram you can consider the deoxygenated blood, and on the left side of the heart as well as on these blood vessels you can see the oxygenated blood. So in pulmonary vein and also in the systemic artery it will be oxygenated blood, whereas in pulmonary artery and also in systemic vein you can see the deoxygenated blood. So coming back to the question, so that diagram is important, like that this graphical representation is also important. Our answer will be option D. So now we have the next question on the screen. The condition that is favorable for dissociation of oxyhemoglobin. As you know, there are favorable conditions for dissociation of oxyhemoglobin in tissues, and in alveoli you can see the conditions for formation of oxyhemoglobin. or for saturation of oxyhemoglobin. So this is clearly given in your NCERT. So these points you have to remember. The points are coming on the next slide. In alveoli, what are the conditions prevailing in alveoli for formation of oxyhemoglobin? High PO2, low PCO2, then low temperature, low H plus ion concentration. Then what about in tissues? In tissues, dissociation. Conditions for dissociation: low PO2, high PCO2, high temperature and high H plus ion concentration. So here we have a graphical representation, and this graphical representation is that of partial pressure of oxygen taken on the x-axis and percentage of saturation of hemoglobin taken on the y-axis. So in this graphical representation, if you plot a graph, you will get a sigmoid curve, and this curve or this graphical representation, this will explain the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin as well as association of oxyhemoglobin. Not only the loading of oxygen by hemoglobin but also the unloading. So this is commonly known as the dissociation curve, oxygen dissociation curve. Now we move on to the slide now. Our answer will be option A. The condition that is favorable for dissociation of oxyhemoglobin will be high partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So when there is high partial pressure of carbon dioxide, when there is high concentration of carbon dioxide, oxyhemoglobin will dissociate and it will release oxygen in tissues. So our answer is option A. What about option B, C, D? That is applicable for alveoli region. You got it? Now we move to the next question. What will be the PO2 and PCO2 in the atmospheric air compared to that in alveolar air? So again, that table, I remind you about that table given in your NCERT or the diagram given in your NCERT. Here we have that picture. So in this picture, you can see the partial pressure of gases in all the 5 parts: atmospheric air, alveolar air, deoxygenated blood, oxygenated blood, and also in tissues. So you have to by heart the values. So coming back to the question now, you can in the question they are asking about the PO2 and PCO2 of atmospheric air compared to that of alveolar air. So from the options, it is very easy. Our answer will be option B. The PO2 will be higher in atmospheric air compared to that of alveolar air. Okay. Now because in alveolar air, it will be different. So you have to by heart all the values now. Okay. Coming to the next question. It is a match the following question taken from your disorders of respiratory system. So here, when you match these options, asthma you can match with spasm of the tracheal muscle. Okay. What about bronchitis? Bronchitis you can match with the inflammation of the bronchi region. Then rhinitis you can match with inflammation of the nasal tract. And finally, emphysema you can match with the third one, that is fully blown out alveoli. To know more about the emphysema, we have a picture. So in this picture, you can see the emphysema that is caused in persons who have chain smokers. Chain smokers are mainly affected by emphysema. In them, the alveoli, their surface area will be reduced or it will be damaged. So the damage for the respiratory surface, the respiratory surface is greatly reduced in the case of patients with emphysema. Chain smokers are mainly affected. Now moving back to the question now, our answer is option D. Now we have the next question for you. Majority of carbon dioxide produced by our body cell will be transported to lungs in the form of, it will be in the form of bicarbonates in blood plasma. So to know more details of the carbon dioxide transport, we have the picture. In the case of carbon dioxide transport, first of all, what happens? When there is a high carbon dioxide concentration in tissues, this carbon dioxide will combine with water to form carbonic acid in presence of an enzyme called carbonic anhydrase. So first of all, carbonic acid is formed. This carbonic acid will dissociate into bicarbonate and H plus. And H plus will combine with Hb to form hemoglobinic acid. And what will happen to the bicarbonate ion? Bicarbonate ion will move out from the RBC to plasma, and to maintain an equilibrium, to maintain ionic equilibrium, the chloride ions will shift from plasma to RBC. This is what is called the chloride shift or Hamburger phenomena. Now what happens? Now these RBCs and plasma portion, it will reach the alveolar region. In alveolar region, all these reactions will occur in the reverse manner. Reverse manner mean this bicarbonate ion, it will enter from plasma to RBC, whereas chloride ions will move out from the RBC to plasma. Okay. Then these bicarbonate ions, they will combine with H plus to form carbonic acid, and carbonic acid in the reverse way it will eliminate carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide will be evolved or it will reach the alveoli. So this is the way in which from tissue to alveoli carbon dioxide is getting transported, and it will be in the form of bicarbonates. Which enzyme is required here? Carbonic anhydrase. So I have explained the way in which carbon dioxide is transported in the form of bicarbonates. So important point to note here is that of chloride shift happening here. Chloride ions will move from plasma to RBC to compensate the movement of bicarbonate from RBC to plasma. So coming back to our question, our answer will be option C. So majority of carbon dioxide is getting transported in the form of bicarbonate. 70% is getting transported in the form of bicarbonates. So our answer option C. Now coming back to our next question. Respiratory organs of millipedes and prawns are respectively. We have a lot of different respiratory organs in the beginning of the chapter. So we have the slide for you. Details of different respiratory organs present in different organisms. On body surface will be used for respiration in the case of protozoans, poriferans and coelentrates. So you can see a direct exchange of gases there. You can call it as a direct respiration. In the case of moist skin is used as a respiratory organ for earthworm and frog. Okay, skin is a respiratory organ there. That is indirect way of respiration. Whenever there is a respiratory organ involved, it is indirect way of respiration. When there is no involvement of respiratory organ, you can call it as a direct respiration. What about gills? Gills are found in crustaceans, mollusks and fishes. Trachea they are found in insects, and in most arthropods you can see trachea. What about book lungs? Book lungs are applicable for scorpion, coming under the group of arachnida, and it is belonging to phylum Arthropoda. Okay, book gills are found in limulus, and finally lungs are found in reptiles, birds and mammals. Reptiles, birds and mammals, they have lungs. So these are the different types of respiratory organs found in different animals. So you should by heart all these examples for different type of respiratory organs. Right. We move to our next question now. So the question answer will be option D. Respiratory organs of millipedes and prawns. Millipedes are belonging to the group of Myriapoda, and prawns belong to that of Crustacea. So for Myriapoda it will be trachea, and for Crustacea it will be gills. So our answer option D. So with this we finish today's session on breathing and gas exchange. Tomorrow we will be back with another set of questions from second year. Our topic will be biotechnology, its applications. Right. So see you tomorrow. Be prepared. Until then, it's goodbye from Stephen Classes.